that's a really exciting angle and pathway to go down. The key there is really to be thinking about what you're working towards. So if you are a fine artist wanting to get your art into fine art galleries, going down that product path can accidentally devalue your work. So you've got to be really careful about your bigger picture strategy there. But yes, I personally love the idea of art on products. And another artist who I work with, Sandra Gale, she does that. She blitzes it. She goes to all of the art and design, like the high-end art and design markets, the trade fairs as well, and she wholesales her art as well through those avenues. That's a really fun way to go. And
Hello, my loves, and welcome to Create Your Life. My name is Simone Leah, and I am your host. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys today because today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Ros Gervay, who is a beautiful botanical artist who makes her income as a successful artist. So she is amazing. She is someone that any artist or creative can listen to this interview and get value from, whether you're a fine artist, whether you do pottery, whether you're a singer or a dancer, anyone who's in the creative arts can apply a lot of what was said in this interview to their business in their passion, in their field of passion. So whether you want to be an artist who sells art in a gallery, or whether you want to be an artist who makes prints of their work and sells prints of merchandise and actual art prints, or whatever you're doing in the creative arts field, there's so much to take out of this interview because as a successful artist, Ros has seen it all, done it all, tried it all. She also mentors people in how to have a successful art business. So she is the person to talk to. And I really hope you enjoy this interview today, guys, because it is phenomenal. Hello, my loves, and welcome to Create Your Life. My name is Simone Leah, and I am your host. And I am so excited to be here with you guys today because today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Ros Gervay, who is a phenomenal artist and creative, and she loves to help other people to create income and create money and products with their art as well. So she's a phenomenal person to talk to today because today we're talking about the topic of creating a profitable and successful business as a creative and as an artist. Hi, Ros, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Simone?
Oh, good, thank you. We are so excited to have you on the show today because I have a background in dancing. So I've always been so wanting to talk to the artists and the creatives and see what they're doing to create a beautiful life for themselves. But on that note, I do want to start with the age-old podcast question of what does creating a life you love look like to you?
Oh, I really like that question. Creating a life that you love, what's that look like? I would say following joy, and listening to, those callings and what you are naturally being pulled towards. It can be really hard to do, though, obviously. There's a lot of economic pressure on a lot of people to get a real job. And if you're not watching the video, I'm doing the little bunny ear thing. And so as a creative, that can be really hard. We've got to stand up for ourselves. We have to stand out in the crowd. We've got to really stick to our guns when that's our big dream. So, yeah.
Yep, totally, definitely understand and can relate to that. I was talking to a girl just the other day and she'd be only young, like maybe 20, and her full-time job is a dance, she works at a dance studio. And I was like, "Oh, I love that. You haven't listened to any of the pressure from anything around you saying get a real job or go and get a career or whatever. So I literally love that. So what are we talking about today, Rosa? Are we talking about, creating art and then putting it into a digital print and putting it online? Are we talking about being an artist who creates courses, or are we talking about being an artist who puts their work in galleries, or all of the things?
I love that question as well. So yeah, definitely all of the things. So For, in my own business, I do a lot of different things. I'm all about that multiple income stream model because I think variety is the spice of life for me, keeps me entertained and engaged. But in terms of the other artists who might be listening today, and the artists who I support as well as clients, they will each have their own direction. They'll each have their own specific goals. So we can be talking about all of that. So artists who want to get their art into galleries, artists who want to be entirely self-represented, selling purely online, or we can also be talking about artists who are wanting to make an income out of teaching art and creating courses and creating memberships and even coaching other artists as well. So, there's so much opportunity. And I always talk about how I've made my income in my business through my passion for art. So it's not just the artwork itself, but it's all the rest that keeps life interesting for me anyway.
Oh, I literally love that. I love that it's not the art itself. I love that it's the passion for art. I think that's probably one of the greatest quotes I've heard in a long time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, like, how would someone even know that they have the capacity to be an artist?
Oh, that's a great question too. Look at you and all your powerful questions, Simone. How would they know if they have the potential to be an artist? Well, I feel like we all have that streak, right? The question is more around how much joy it brings you and how driven you are to make something of it.
Mm.
If it's something that really lights you up, then it needs some attention. You need to pay attention to that and then just be deciding, is that going to stay as a hobby, as a side thing, or are we actually going to try to convert that into our job? Because, I'm sure you've heard that expression. What is that? I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to make it my own version. I have a migrant heritage, by the way, Simone. So all of my expressions are totally mixed up. But this idea, when you turn your passion into your career, you never work a day in your life again. And it's 100% true because I'm living it 100%. No day is terrible in my world. I'm just so blessed. But yes, yeah. So turning that passion into a career, that's the question, whether you want to do that or whether you want to leave it in that hobby zone.
Well, where would people even start with figuring that out? Like, if I was an artist and I'm wanting to take the plunge, do I quit my job tomorrow and stand outside the galleries with my artwork, or do I take it slow? Or what do I do?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's really around what I recommend, because I don't want to send anyone off onto the street, right? We're talking about doing this in a sensible way. Most of my clients have families, have children. So having an income is actually an important piece of the puzzle. So if we have a gorgeous artist listening who are wanting to transition from their current job situation, maybe it's part-time, maybe it's a full-time job, I recommend that seesaw approach. So get your art working for you as a side hustle, and then slowly build that and slowly reduce your days in your day job. So my previous job actually was in teaching, primary teaching, and I did exactly that. So I had a permanent job, and I remember the day when I said, no, it's done. And I gave that job back to someone else who really wanted, a lot of artists want these teachers want these full-time jobs. So I gave that job back to the market essentially. And I backed myself to take my art seriously. I did a few casual teaching days as I was making that transition. And then eventually I just knew there was no going back. I couldn't go back. I wasn't going back to the classroom. It wasn't going to happen. And sometimes it is that pressure, when you're really pushed, that makes you do the things that will get you the success that you need, because we all need to be able to pay bills, right? And put food on the table, pay for our children to have school shoes and all of that jazz. So yeah, that's my recommendation, that seesaw approach.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And if you are doing this, as you've got obviously your income creating thing, which was your, job, how are you balancing the creative side of actually getting the art created, but also building a business? Because, like, a lot of the time as creatives, we're a little bit less organized and structured.
This is true. And it's interesting because actually only recently I've had an ADHD diagnosis. So I know what you're talking about. But the same thing with creatives is when we are in that space of joy and when we're sort of in that space of, ADHD or not, but this space of hyper focus, this space of drive and motivation, we can do anything. Then that's how it happens. So you do your day job, and then on those off hours, the hours outside of that, you tend to your side hustle slowly grow it. It's going to grow at a slower pace, obviously, because you have less time to give it. Slowly grow it to where it needs to be, and then start to reduce those days. So it is 100% possible. One of my clients, Karen Bunger, if anyone wants to look her up, she's just achieved that as well. So she's reducing days now in her job. So is another client of mine, Amy Venn, if you want to go and look her up. So it can be done. And that's this, I think that's the sensible way to do it, because, we've got to be sensible here.
Yes, no, I understand. And what is the landscape looking like at the moment as an artist? Like, would you recommend if someone is wanting to get rid of their day job to start building an online presence and maybe have an online store, or does it really just depend on the person's goals? Like, would someone ever come to you and say, I just want to be in galleries? Or would you still be like, okay, build the online presence as well because that will help with the galleries? Like, what sort of approach are people taking now?
I am very personalized with my coaching. So I don't believe that there's any cookie cutter style approach. And I personally think that anyone who does spruik that or promote that has no idea, because we are all so unique. Our art is unique, our scenarios are unique, our natures as well, our characters are unique. So I won't ever promote any one style solution. I do believe that it is important to have an online presence, to have a website, to have some social media going and some email marketing going. But as to the extent of that, what that looks like, that is definitely an individual situation. Because I honestly, I always come back down to joy. So for my clients, I support them to build art businesses that are joyful, that they actually want to be involved in. So I'm not going to say post on social media 4 times a day or anything like that, unless that's something that really lights that person up. It's so personal.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Definitely agree. And I think that's the biggest thing as well when you're transitioning from something that is a job to something you're actually passionate about. You don't want to turn it into a job. You want to keep
Yes.
the passion there.
100%. And, I do have to say, in art businesses, there are things that have to be done still. So there is an element of that, because you need an element of maturity and predictability in your business, but it is still joy led, 100%.
No, I love that. And if someone is wanting to take their art online, how hard is it to get your art from the canvas into an online store?
Oh, I love that question. So online, so if you're having your own website, entirely in your control. If you're wanting to get your art onto somewhere like Etsy or Blue Thumb, also entirely within your control. However, if you're exploring art marketplaces like Art Lovers perhaps, or even Saatchi Art, I think with Saatchi Art you have to apply, but Art Lovers you definitely do. How easy is it? Oh, it's up to them, right? It's up to the owners of those platforms to make the decision. So you can't control that, but what you can control is what you enter when you apply and how many times you enter as well. So recently, another of my clients, Julie Weston, was just accepted into Art Lovers, which is just amazing. And another client wasn't. And so the question for her is she going to diarize reapplying in 6 months' time? Or is she just going to take the back seat and just call it a loss? You've got to do the things that are in your control. So yeah, hopefully I'm giving her the elbow. Pop that in the diary for next 6 months, please.
Yes, yes, definitely. Why not? You've got nothing to lose from trying again.
Definitely.
I love that. So what about, say someone's just come out of school, say they're like 18 years old and they're like, I'm gonna do this art thing. They're getting the pressure from the family. But they're still just like, you know what, I'm young, I'm doing it now while I can, you know? What sort of like, I don't know, steps would you get them to kind of start taking? Would it be, as you said, get the email list, get the branding list, get online, like get, you know, get your own website? Um, and potentially, would you be saying, you know, I mean, maybe not to an 18-year-old, maybe to someone who's a bit more established, get an online course? Or do many artists come to you saying they want to have an online brand and an online course, or is it mostly about the art?
Mostly about the art. However, I do have a VIP coaching program where I have artists who are expanding beyond that because they're really committed to art as life. You know, these passionate artists that can't just keep art to themselves. They also want to share it with other people. So it's a bit of a mix, but I would say primarily art as the focus. So an 18-year-old who's wanting to, just back to the question,
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
wanting to follow through with the art side of things and really give that a crack, definitely I would be saying to set up an online presence of some sort. I love the idea of getting art in front of real eyes in person. So the idea of hooking up with galleries can be a great option, or otherwise art fairs. There are a lot of great art fairs that go around the world actually. So there's the other art fair, there's the affordable art fair as well, and getting other people to see your works in person, that's really, really powerful. And then the other X factor that's a good one to throw into the mix is collaboration, because we can get our art in front of our own audiences, but to get our art in front of other audiences where it's mutually beneficial to the other party is a really, really powerful way to speed things up, turn up the dial, and amplify our success.
What does that look like? What does collaboration look like for an artist?
Oh, so many different options. So online collaborations can be going live together in person on social media. In-person collaborations can be creating group art exhibitions together where you have, you know, multiple artists showing their work, and then they cross their audiences and their buyers and their collectors, and they sort of intermingle like that. Other collaborations as well can be around these art fairs and working with other artists to exhibit together as well. So yeah, just any sort of collaboration. If there's an opportunity to cross over with another artist, work together, you know, pool your talents and your strengths, that's a really great way to speed things up.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a great one for people to be looking at, you know, and even going to, I think a lot, I love when I'm at a cafe and I can see art as well. So I also love that as an idea.
Sure, you know, the local collaborations and also local councils can have great art programs. They might be looking for artwork on local brochures or banners that might be up in their local council space. Or I'm not sure if you've seen painted letterboxes and painted, you know, electricity boxes, painted community ping pong tables. You know, all of that. As long as you can put your name on it, that's a really, really great opportunity to branch out and extend your audience.
Right, well, that actually brings me into a question of working for free. That makes me think. So if like someone was doing that sort of stuff, are they expecting to get paid for that? Like I can understand with a collaboration, it's mutually beneficial, but if you're painting things for the council, how do you know when to be charging and when to be writing it off as advertising?
I would just be charging for sure, because you know what, the people who ask you to do something for free, I don't know what they're doing. They think they think they're doing. I don't know what they think they're doing, because art is a valid career and a skill set, and artists need support. So I would definitely be asking to be paid. If you're feeling nervous about that, you start with a small amount, and then what you do, the second you state your amount, you zip. Don't say anything. Don't offer that discount, FYI, and see what they come back with. Because even just recently, I did a quote for a particular project, and I was thinking, "Ooh, that number's a bit high." Ooh, I sent it. I waited, and they said, "No problem, done."
Love that.
So work out the amount, zip it, and sit tight is really, really the hot tip. And yes, you should be paid. I was actually joking recently with another artist friend of mine about how much family should pay, because we always feel like we should do this family and friends discount, but I feel like it should be actually a family and friends surcharge. What do you think?
Yes, for sure.
You're meant to support me, right?
Definitely, definitely. 100%. Yeah, 100% agree.
I'm not sure I have the bravery to actually ask for that, but as a concept, I approve.
No, yes, definitely. And look, I would be open to feeding with food, you know. I'm very,
There you go. That works.
yeah, you can pay with food. But that's fine. Another avenue I think that would be interesting to explore for an artist is merchandise. So if you had someone who was just having, you know, say they've got their art and it's just on a canvas, would you be recommending or saying, hey, like look at maybe putting it on a t-shirt, or look at maybe putting it on a, I don't know, something else, a journal cover, or, you know, is that an option that people can have?
That's a really exciting angle and pathway to go down. The key there is really to be thinking about what you're working towards. So if you are a fine artist wanting to get your art into fine art galleries, going down that product path can accidentally devalue your work. So you've got to be really careful about your bigger picture strategy there. But yes, I personally love the idea of art on products. You know, and another artist who I work with, Sandra Gale, she does that. She blitzes it. She goes to all of the art and design, like the high-end art and design markets, the trade fairs as well, and she wholesales her art as well through those avenues. That's a really fun way to go. And, you know, if you're selling your art, or if you have in your mind that you're selling your art just to homeowners who have a blank wall, that's a single purchase, right? Or a single sale. But if you can get your art then into products, it's a different story. You're integrating into there, as you said, clothing or tea towels or tote bags or funky trousers. I've got these fluoro floral trousers that I absolutely love from Gorman, and they're just painty splush everywhere. Like, how amazing is that? So yeah, if you can branch out, for sure. The other benefit of that side of art business as well is it gives people a lower cost way of getting into your world, and almost like practice spending money with you as an artist, build that trust. And then from there, their next purchase might be a large scale original, who knows? So yeah, so much room to play with on the product side. Great question.
I love that. I love that. And my brain, I don't know, it works in a very weird way. Could you kind of set yourself up as an artist and have an exclusive range, but then also have a range, like if you do want to do that fine art direction, can you have a range of stuff that really caters to that fine art market that you don't reproduce in any way, but you do also have your range of stuff that does get put onto to I don't know, merchandise? Like, could you have both at the same time, but with the same end goal of getting into fine art galleries? Or is it really hard to do it without diluting?
You could do that. I would just suggest being a little bit careful about it. But look, anything's possible if you've done it very thoughtfully. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Now, what about if you're someone who, say, let's say your background. So you're someone who's a little bit older than 18, but obviously not by much. Um,
Just a year or two.
yeah, has had like a full-time career, possibly a degree, that sort of thing. They're a little bit more worldly. They might have a little bit more bravery. They might have a little bit less. I don't know. But where would you say that they start? Would their starting place be the same place as the 18-year-olds, or a completely different place?
I feel it would be the same place. The other factor that I didn't mention, by the way, for both of those age groups is the importance of community. So I don't know if you've heard of an author and artist, Julia Cameron. So she writes a book called The Artist's Way, and she talks in this book about believing mirrors, and these are believing mirrors are very special people in our lives who reflect back to us our best qualities, and essentially they're like your super fans or like your ultra supporters, right? And I feel for artists and for creatives and artists across all the arts, Simone, because I know you do a lot of dancing, to turn our passions into a career, as I mentioned right at the start, takes a lot of chutzpah, for want of a better word. And we need our community. We need our believing mirrors behind us. So that's a really important piece of the puzzle as well. So community to back you, and they also give you those collaboration opportunities as well.
Yeah. How can you even start to find your community if you're, say that you're like someone who just doesn't know many real life artists? How can you start to find them in the real world?
So I split usually by two with this question. So either online or in person. Online or in person. Offline, I think is what I was trying to say. Online or offline. So offline, often there are art societies or communities locally that are associated with your local council, depending on where you are in the world. But that's definitely something to look up. There are also those online in-person chat groups that you can find. What are they called? Do you remember? Meetup. Oh, that's
Oh,
right,
yeah,
my
yeah.
brain, sorry. So Meetup, you can hop online to Meetup and then see if you can find some local creatives that way. But otherwise, online, so many options. Social media is a great place to meet people. There are zillions of Facebook groups for artists as well. I actually have a free Facebook group for artists if anyone's interested in going and finding that. But online, there are so many spaces as well. I would start there. There might be also near you a community art college, which you could go and do some weekly or monthly drop-in classes, not necessarily with the intention of learning painting, but just to meet other people and to meet other people who are interested in the same things as you.
No, I love that. That's great. Thank you. What about so obviously we've kind of figured out, all right, these are all your pathways with art itself. What is it that's going to make you go from being an artist to having a successful art business? Like, do we also need to be going and learning some business things or doing a business course? Can we just wing it? Can we just read everything in the top 10, business section of the library?
I love the winging it concept because because I think by background or by nature I'm a little bit like that, but it is actually a model, this whole winging it concept, because it's, you have an idea, you put it to market, you see if it flies. If it flies, then you build. If it doesn't, then you don't. You think of artists whose art, they've been making their art for years, but nobody has bought anything. There's something there, right? There's a problem there. We need to actually get to the bottom of that. So we need to be working out how we can make art that we love, where there is a demand, and then turning up that dial. So yeah, just that sort of winging it piece for sure. Like follow your nose, follow the interest 100%. I mean, it is great to speed things up with a coach, with this community is essential, absolutely essential. That can really speed things up, help you to, not make all the mistakes that people like me have made through our winging it strategy. But yeah, otherwise following joy, following what lights you up, following what others respond to as well, as long as it's still staying true to you, and this art that you want to be making.
Yeah. Is there a way to be successful as an artist and not really know the business side? Like, can you just create the art and then hand everything over to an accountant, and just be creative? Or does there also have to be that element of, all right, this is a business. I'm winging it, but I'm also aware of, what a profit and loss statement is. Like,
Yeah.
how does that work in?
That's a good question. Thank you. You're reining my head. No, it's a tricky one. I think the closest you could get to that scenario would be finding formal gallery representation for yourself and your art. And that way the gallerist will actually indicate to you and push you and your art in a certain direction. That's the closest you're going to get to that. You could look at outsourcing various bits and pieces, but still you do need to have a little bit of awareness on the business side of things. Yeah, definitely. No, you're completely right. I mean, you can only wing an idea so far, and then you have to get a little bit serious. So yeah, and the finances as well of small business and art, you definitely need to be across that as well. So I've given you, that gallery representation. That's the closest you're going to get to just making the art.
So how are you going to balance that? Like, what if the business side feels like pulling teeth? Do we have to spend
Mm.
4 hours on that every Monday? Or like, how are we making that actually okay for our creative like our creative soul?
You know what I say? So I can give you some practical tips on that, but also this idea that creativity actually can extend beyond the art form. So for me in my business is creative. I'm coming up with new ways of launching collections. I'm coming up with new ways of framing things, new ways of varnishing things, new ways of, running an art fair, new ways of promoting myself, new ways of running art challenges. That's creative to me, and that's so much fun. And I'm always improving and tweaking. That just really, really lights me up. So if you can shift your mindset so that the creativity actually applies to the business side of things, then it's not going to feel like a slog. I feel like if you have a couple of markers there, like if you're feeling that the business side is too much for you, or you really hate it with a passion, that actually needs to be addressed. And either you need to just pop your art back to hobby space, or you need to work out how to find some joy in that space, because otherwise you've got a business you don't like.
Yeah. No, I absolutely 100% love and agree with that. I have personally been in business since I was 18 years old, and I've always referred to myself as an entrepreneur because business owner to me sounds boring and entrepreneur sounds creative. And I'm like,
That's
I wouldn't be in business if it was boring. I only do it because it's creative. Like there's so many options and solutions. And so you're the first person I've ever met who's also had that same mindset that business can be such a creative outlet, and to come at it from that perspective because it really dissolves a lot of those barriers that we put on ourselves, I feel. How much do
exactly.
you think mindset does make a difference to being a successful artist?
Oh my goodness. I think it's 80% mindset and 20% the rest. 80% mindset. You've got to have that stamina and that drive and that commitment and persistence and all of that jazz to get to the end, to get to where you want to go. Even the best, most amazing artists, if they are not committed enough, if they can't roll with a couple of the punches, and I'm a sensitive person, so I mean that with my whole heart, if they can't roll with that and keep on going, it's just not going to fly. So yeah, 80% for sure mindset.
I love that. So if someone was wanting to like, I think, become an actual artist and like actually sell their art, become successful, become profitable, would you recommend them having, say, a coach or a mentor that actually does also include that mindset piece as
Yeah, for
opposed to
sure.
just the rest?
Yeah, definitely. And a good coach will do that anyway. A good coach knows that. A good coach knows that it's not just here's a strategy, just do that, good tick those boxes and you're done. That's not how it works, because we're human. we're complex, and we have emotions and we have setbacks, and we've got to navigate those as well. So yeah, definitely the mindset piece is a huge piece. Strategy, mindset, community, and a guide to guide someone who's walked before you to help you out, and save you from all of those pitfalls. Save you
Literally.
time and money and heartache.
I love that. I definitely love that. Is it something that's the sort of thing you can do by yourself? Could you just decide one day I'm going to be an artist and do it by yourself? Or would you really recommend having, I suppose, without that community, it's going to be very hard. So regardless of whether you have a coach or not, you do need that community just so that there's other people out there.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't, you can't, I don't think you can achieve much in the world by yourself, like just as in you in an isolated unit. You need people who are going to refer you for word of mouth, like say, oh my goodness, I don't know, my cousin paints florals. Have you seen her work? You need these. You need to exist in community to some degree. But that said, I work with a lot of introverts, for example, and I am always encouraging them to sort of branch out a little bit, just reach out a little bit further. So the community piece is really important. So that part's definitely essential.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, if someone wanted to get started as an artist today, what would you recommend as their first three top tips? I feel like it is probably a little bit of a summary of what we've already said, but the very three things.
Yeah, so I actually took notes. Number one, I knew this question was coming. Number one, follow joy. It's absolutely everything. If you do not follow joy with your art making, with how you design your art business, you're going to be building something you don't want to be a part of. So that's non-negotiable, the joy. The second one is to test the market as well. Like I mentioned before, as well, you've got to be making art that lights you up, but you're not going to build a business if there's not a demand for your art. So make your art and then see what sells. Notice some patterns, notice some trends, and then tune in more to that and dial that one up. And then the last one is to collaborate as much as possible and in a beneficial way for all parties.
No, I love those. They're great tips. And I actually feel like they could apply across a lot of different industries as well, but they're definitely also great for the singers and the dancers and the other creatives. Whatever your creative skill is, I feel like what you've just said there can really be applied. Like if you do pottery, everything we've said in this interview really works. It doesn't matter what your art form is. If you're a creative, I feel like that advice really does work. What would you recommend as a recommended resource for people who are wanting to like learn more about having a successful art business?
I'm going to give you one that's maybe left of field, but you know how we were talking about before needing to get your finances sorted for business. And often that is a difficult thing for creatives. Creatives tend to shy away from the maths and shy away from the numbers, generally speaking. So my recommendation is a book called Profit First by Mike, and I can never pronounce his last name, so much so that he has an online, is it pseudonym, or he's got a different last name online. He calls himself Mike Motorbike. So if you look that one up, that would be my recommendation. Just for setting up your finances right from the start, even with an art business. I think a lot of people think you don't need to do the numbers with an art business, just, follow the flow, but you do need to look at the numbers side of things. And this book also helps you specifically to prioritize profit and prioritize also your own salary right from the get-go. It's amazing. Highly recommended.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely love that you said that because I think a lot with creatives, you don't count your own time a lot of the time.
Definitely not, because we love it. It's like there's some sort of mindset there that if we enjoy it, we can't charge for it, or it has no worth if we enjoy it, which is just so wrong when the whole point of life is to, be in a place of joy and to spread that joy for others as well.
Yeah. And to be able to live happily and easily doing that, like if you can have a career doing what you love, that is the dream. So you have to learn to charge for your time.
I agree.
Now, where can people find you, Roz?
I like to spend a lot of time on Instagram. So you can go over to Instagram to Ros Gervay Art. Otherwise, I do have my free Facebook group for artists. If you'd like to find me there, it's called Permission to Paint Free Community. And I actually do, Simone, have a free art business challenge coming up. So if anyone wants to go and stalk my website, it'll be on my homepage with all the key dates. So I'm looking at my calendar. That's going to kick off at the end of July 2024.
That sounds amazing. What's that like? What's that look like and entail? Let everybody know.
Well, Simone, I'm in the light of being an eternal improver and tweaker and creative business owner. This is actually going to be a new evolution of my previous challenge, which was called the Artist Evolution Challenge. So it's almost like the Artist Evolution Challenge 2.0, and it's going to be all about turning up the dial on the art sales and learning how to improve everything we do in our art business to make more art sales. So it's my passion. So I love helping other artists to turn their passion into an income. So that's what this is all about, and I love it. So it goes for 5 days, and it's all online, and it's going to be amazing and completely free as well.
It sounds amazing. It sounds actually just sounds really fun.
Totally. I get good reviews from my challenges. I do like my challenges. They're a lot of fun. I think that comes through.
Yes, I feel like you have a very vibrant, lively soul, very playfully.
Oh.
So that would be
Thanks.
really nice. Like it sounds like a really fun place to be.
Come and join us, Simone. Do you paint ever, or do you make art ever?
I am a musical by nature. I can sing, I can dance, I can play the piano, I can color in the lines.
Perfect. This is
But
what
I'm
we
not,
want.
yeah. But yeah, don't ask me to draw.
I'm wondering if this challenge theoretically could apply to singers and dancers. Maybe not. Not sure about that. Leave
Potentially.
that with me. Watch this space for 2025.
Do it. Hit the whole range of creatives.
Do it.
Yeah. I think it'd be super fun. Like, imagine that sort of community. I think it'd be really fun. But yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, what are your details for people to find you? And we know you've got a podcast. Can you share all the details about that and what your actual Instagram handles are? And are you on Facebook? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, definitely. So you can also listen to my podcast. So my podcast is called Paint, Rest, Repeat, and it's with my co-host Laura Jane Day. You can also check her out on Insta. She is gorgeous. And we talk all about being an artist and trying to make a living out of our art. That's the focus on the podcast there. Otherwise, Instagram, as I mentioned earlier, I also do have a Facebook page if you want to head there, at Ros Gervay Art, spelt Rosgervay art. And lastly, oh yes, if you did want to find out about the challenge, you can head to my main website, which is called permissiontopaint.co, just the CO at the end.
Amazing. That sounds so wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a really fun interview. It's super cool to hear about how people are doing something so beautiful and so creative and so I feel like art is a very raw and personal experience. So it's nice hearing about how people are successfully creating a business out of following that. So thank you so much for your time today.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Simone.